Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen is set to stay in power if her left-wing bloc gets the expected Faroe Islands and Greenland votes.
Former Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is on course for victory in Tuesday's elections, according to exit polls. In a dramatic escalation, North Korea has fired more than 20 missiles towards South Korea, triggering a retaliation from Seoul, in turn firing missiles back.
Residents living on the coastline in Belize prepare their homes for a tropical storm Lisa, due to hit the country on Wednesday.
Denmark's Social Democrat Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen is set to stay in power after the country's left-wing bloc won a one-seat majority in Tuesday's general election. The very last votes counted in the knife-edge poll that gives Frederiksen's side 87 seats in mainland Denmark, but 3 more are expected from the autonomous overseas territories of Faroe Islands and Greenland.
Dear Denmark, I am so happy and proud. The Social Democrats, we have had the best election in more than 20 years.
Before confirmation that Frederiksen's so-called Red Bloc or left-leaning parties had achieved the 90 seats needed for a majority in their 179-seat parliament, former Prime Minister Lars Rasmussen appeared set to become the kingmaker. His newly formed centrist party won 16 seats. Frederiksen's rival right-wing Blue Bloc ended up with 72 seats. Frederiksen says she will try to form a new government with broad support across the political divide.
Former Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appears on the verge of a major political comeback in Israel's 5th election in 4 years. Exit polls have his Likud party scraping a razor-thin win with the help of new far-right allies, the religious Zionist party.
We are close to a big victory. One thing is already clear. Our way, the Likud's way, has proven itself.
If confirmed, it would mean a record 6th term as Prime Minister for Netanyahu, a job he held for 12 years before being toppled in 2021. The longtime leader's right-wing religious bloc is set to win 61 or 62 seats overall, just clinching a majority in the 120-seat Knesset. Netanyahu's main rival, incumbent Prime Minister Yair Lapid of the centrist Yesh Atid and his camp, is predicted to win 54 seats overall.
Until the last envelope is counted, nothing is over and nothing is final. And we will wait patiently, even if we're eager for the final results.
Netanyahu's new partners, the right-wing extremist religious Zionist party, appear to be set for unprecedented success with 13 of 14 seats, making them the 3rd largest party. Turnout on Tuesday was higher than it had been in decades in the high-stakes contest, as voters attempted to break the political deadlock. Final confirmation of the result isn't due until Thursday. In a major escalation, North Korea has fired at least 20 missiles in the direction of its southern neighbor this Wednesday. One of the projectiles even landed close to South Korean territorial waters for the first time since the 1945 division of the peninsula. Seoul said it retaliated a few hours later.
Since 8:51 a.m. today, North Korea launched 3 ballistic missiles, and one of them landed in the East Sea, south of the northern limit line. Today's launch is the first time a North Korean missile landed near our territorial waters. This is unprecedented and unacceptable. Our military will respond sternly to this act.
The missile launch also sparked rising tensions with Japan.
Recently, North Korea has been launching ballistic missiles in a quick succession and has been relentlessly and unilaterally escalating its provocations. North Korea's series of actions threatens the peace and security of Japan, the region and the international community, and is absolutely unacceptable.
The latest tests come after the head of the United Nations nuclear watchdog warned last week that Pyongyang could be preparing for a nuclear test, its first since 2017. Security forces in Tehran fired tear gas at protesters in a shopping mall, but they ended up gassing themselves as the fumes blew back in their direction. After nearly 7 weeks of protest, the Iranian authorities have now issued a warning saying all those who took part in demonstrations for Mahsa Amini will be persecuted in courts. Thousands have already been arrested. But the nationwide unrest continued as people rallied in residential areas and city centers. And now university students have begun staging strikes in support of the anti-government movement.
There is still no movement of cargo ships carrying Ukrainian grains on Wednesday. It leaves the future of the UN-brokered deal, which ensures safe wartime passage of critical food supplies, in doubt. On Tuesday, 3 ships carrying corn, wheat and sunflower meal did travel through the humanitarian sea corridor, despite the Russian withdrawal from the agreement. Russia's leader Vladimir Putin has told his Turkish counterpart Recep Tayyip Erdogan in a phone call that Moscow will only consider resuming the deal if he secures real guarantees from Kyiv. Moscow suspended its participation due to Saturday's drone attack on Russia's fleet in Crimea, one that Putin blames on Ukraine. Kyiv has not claimed responsibility and has denied using the safe shipping corridor for military purposes. This is literally a matter of life for tens of millions of people. In his nightly address, Ukraine's President Zelensky said the grain corridor needs reliable protection and that Russia should receive a tough international response for disrupting food exports. Earlier, Zelensky had welcomed the European Commissioner for Energy in Kyiv.
But I'm sure you have.
Residents living on the coastline of Belize are preparing their homes as the country braces for Tropical Storm Lisa, expected to hit the Central American nation on Wednesday. Windows are being secured with wooden planks and sandbags are being placed around buildings to protect them from possible floods. As the storm moved to the Caribbean Sea, Lisa was upgraded to a level 1 hurricane.
A phenomenon like this is very dangerous for us. Everything floods quickly with a little bit of rain. So imagine a hurricane, winds and so on. It is the fear of many people, and sometimes there's some who don't have well-insured houses. So people also fear flooding and other disasters.
According to the U.S. National Hurricane Center, Lisa is moving at a speed of 24 kilometers per hour, with winds of up to 100. They issued a warning for locals to stay indoors and to stock up on goods as only pharmacies and gas stations would remain open.
And protect them for the months that they're going to end up on the winter.
A few sprinkles of holy water and a short prayer to protect the animals. That's how a lesser-known autumn custom in southwestern Ireland begins. Every year, at the end of October, the cattle and some enthusiastic onlookers head to the rugged landscape of Burren. For 5 months, the animals will wander and graze over the stony hills. It's an ancient farming practice that has turned into an annual celebration.
Simply, when the cattle go up here today onto the winters, they're going to spend the whole winter harvesting dead grasses and vegetation from the burn pastures. Then in spring, when the cattle come back down, the sunlight can penetrate the ground floor and all these beautiful gentians and orchids can pop out unhindered and flower and seed for the rest of the summer. It's like this is a botanical metropolis. Lots of flowers from different parts of the world, Arctic, Alpine, Mediterranean, packed into this little landscape.
The practice is affectionately called winterage, and many here say it's the key to Burren's famous biodiversity.
They're warmed coming from the limestone, and there's little valleys and little pathways, and it's with plenty of shelter, and it's actually, even in the coldest days you think the cattle would be cold, but the heat comes off the limestone, so they're not cold.
While many farmers might fret about sufficient food for their cattle on seemingly barren mountains, these farmers say it's never been a problem. The cattle drive marks the changing of seasons, the turning of the year.